Welcome to this very special episode of the Talking Bear Football Podcast.
Right here on westbranchfootball.com.
I say special because we're actually going to talk about football being played. And it seems odd, Matt, because, we're used to playing football in the fall, but with a worldwide pandemic, you never knew what was going to come about. Well, the Iowa High School Athletic Association has an idea. 1 week ago, the Iowa High School Athletic Association said, hey, we're going to have football. We are preparing to go as usual, preparing things to be normal, right?
They say, quote, preparing to begin the 2020 fall sports season as currently scheduled.
Okay. So we fast forward 1 week, Friday, July 24th, a little bit. We have edited that a little bit. We have revised that plan to say what?
There are quite a few revisions. Change in the number of games that are going to be played in the season, how the playoffs are going to look like. Yeah, in just a week's time, really just kind of flip-flopped everything and have made some pretty drastic changes.
A 7-week regular season will be conducted. Teams will have the option of scheduling 5, 6, or 7 games within those 7 weeks. That is what their definition of regular season football in 2020 will be, Matt.
Yeah, everything is beginning as normal on the 27th and 28th, depending on what class you're in. But that's still week 1. But now week 7 is the end of that regular season on October 9th. And then that very next week, playoffs start. And playoffs, as we'll talk about here with Coach Pedersen, spoiler, is 6 rounds and everybody is in. It's
a Royal Rumble.
Yes.
Everybody's invited. Ding, ding. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. So West Branch officially has taken the 7-game maximum route.
Mm-hmm.
So the schedule is going to look like what?
Well, it's going to look like just like it did when we announced it here a couple months ago. But we've canceled the games against Sigourney, Keota, and Regina.
Before you go any further, we want to make sure and wish those 2 teams well.
Oh, yeah.
I know when we talk to Butch, I'm going to bring up, or he will probably bring up on his own, Coach Jared Jensen at Sigourney Keota, who was on his staff a year ago when Butch was the head coach, one of the 2 head coaches at the Iowa Shrine Bowl. And the Barnum and Bailey Circus single wing that they got going on down there, something's... Mm-hmm. It's old school. It's fun to watch, and I'm almost upset that we're not going to get it.
Oh, I am upset. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to watch it. It's fun. It's old school, and it's just you can guarantee no matter what a defense is, they're going to get challenged.
Well, and they're a good team.
They are,
too. And that's kind of what I was looking forward to is just having another quality opponent on this schedule. So,
well, yeah. Speaking of quality, Matt. The other team that West Branch isn't playing, Regina, who knocked the Bears out of the playoffs a year ago, is moved down to Class A and returns the bulk, pretty much the entire skill position set of that team last year that made it to the Unidome as a semifinalist in Class 1A returns. Hopefully a healthy Alex Wick. Sounds like he's healthy. Hopefully a healthy Nick Wagner at 6'5", 250 as a tight end. That's an extra blocker. Looking forward, if he can stay healthy, I think you'll see him getting a chance to play for the black and gold on Saturdays. 6'5", 250. Yeah, I think so. He's got talent. He's good.
Yeah. So the schedule, still Friday, August 28th at the Little Rose Bowl against Tipton. Now with the Sigourney Keota game out of there, West Liberty game gets bumped up a week to Friday, September 4th. Regina game out of there, and then every other game after that, which is the beginning of the district schedule, gets bumped up by 2 weeks. So that means that the district schedule starts Friday, September 11th at home against Cascade, and that'll actually be homecoming. So a very early homecoming weekend for West Branch, and then the regular season concludes Friday, October 9th at Beckman. And then the playoffs, 6-round playoffs start right after that. And Jason, I do have some news for you. The Bears are in the playoffs.
Oh, congratulations to the West Branch football Bears for 2020. Provided the season goes as planned.
13th season in a row.
You will be in the playoffs for the 13th season in a row. It's a lock. It's a Moline lock. That's as lock as it gets, man.
Yes, that's what I hear.
Well, a 7-game schedule. some changes to normalcy, all these things and more. We want to talk to head coach Butch Pedersen about that, Matt. And let's bring him on right now. As stated, Matt, we couldn't talk about this, and we didn't feel it would be fair to do so without getting some words from our head football coach, Butch Pedersen. He joins us now on the program. Hello, Coach. How are you?
Hi, how you doing?
Good, good. Well, we've talked about sort of what the announcement has said for fall football in the year 2020. A lot of people, of course, are hoping it all comes to fruition. But, your initial thoughts on Friday, July 24th, we've gone from, hey, we're going to do things as normal to now you're going to play a minimum of 5, a maximum of 7 games. What are your thoughts?
I think the state did everything they possibly could to be safe. I think they did as possible everything they could so we could play football this fall. I'm extremely impressed with what they're doing here in the fall. I know that you're going to have a lot of naysayers in a situation like this, but you're going to have those on a variety of different ways anyway. So you just have to try to do what's best and what's safe for the kids and for the coaches and the parents and the fans. And I think they're really trying to meet that objective.
I mean, and for the most part, the schedule is West Branch is going to take the route of we have officially scheduled. Activities Director Jake Stenberg has released this schedule as of now, that the schedule is going to look pretty close to what it did, and we're going to have a lot of familiar teams on it as anyway. The 5 district games are going to begin in District 3, or in Week 3 now, and you're going to play the 5 district games that were previous scheduled, but the 2 out-of-district games before that will be Tipton and West Liberty. So the schedule, even at 7 games, Coach, is going to be a pretty tough task for anybody to play.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're a young football team this year, and we're going to get better each and every game. But Jake Stenberg worked his tail off on Friday. He had to change officials. Him and I had a variety of conferences during the course of that day, and I called some other coaches around the area to get some feedback on what they were doing as well. But we felt that Tipton and West Liberty was the best route for us to take, simply because they're 2 close opponents. And they're also 2A teams, and we always kind of like to play some 2A teams at the beginning of the year. And we also heard that through the grapevine that some of the other teams that were in our non-district thing were trying to get a 4-pod started with different people. And so that kind of told us they weren't interested in playing in us. So I told Jake, I said, the best thing maybe we ought to do is just call, a couple schools that we have played with in the Eastern Iowa Hawkeye Conference for many years, have been rivals. Tipton and West Branch, Cedar County rivals, West Liberty and West Branch, real close throughout the years, playing each other all the time. And we felt that was the best thing. And another thing that I know Jake and I both talked about, we didn't have to travel very far. And I don't really like the idea of kids sitting on a bus for a long period of time during this particular time, even though they would have had masks on and we could have taken care of that. The one sadness that I have is I really did want to play Sigourney extremely badly. Jared Jensen is one of the nicest coaches that I've ever been around. Very classy individual, a man who was on my Shrine Bowl staff last summer, and I've got to know him very well and deeply respect him. So I really am sad that we don't play Sigourney. And after this coming season, I'm going to do everything I can to see that we can get Sigourney on our schedule the following year.
Yeah, Coach Jensen, as we've talked about on other podcasts and other interviews with you, with Matt and myself and Stephen Grace, how a year ago, almost pretty much to the day, you got your experience and a wonderful experience of being the head coach of a team in the Iowa Shrine Bowl. Unfortunately, that game is not going to be played this year, but you had that experience, and one of the coaches you asked to be on your staff was Coach Jensen, one of the first people you called, and I know that he was a valuable resource to you, and you guys have formed a good bond off the field as well.
And the same with Ryan Hetzler from Wilton. I mean, we're going to play Wilton, but I think when we really get down to it, when we start playing these guys, we're always tough. We're aggressive. We want to get after each other. Both schools feel the same way every time you play somebody. But when you get away from that environment and they really get to know you and you get to know them, you get some different insight into what football's about from the coaching standpoint, because sometimes people don't like West Branch, they don't like me, they don't like whatever. That's fine, because maybe I don't like some of them. But in the reality, when you really get to know them and really know what kind of man they really are, they love kids, they're competitive, they show passion, but they care. And those two guys really showed that to me in the Shrine Bowl.
Coach, with the changes here to the schedule, and a lot of these changes being in the spirit of allowing schools to really kind of take their own path into terms of what they feel comfortable with for their kids, just in the age we're living in with the pandemic. How do you feel that these changes, to the schedule, and beyond the regular season, play into keeping the coaches and players safe of all teams?
Well, I think that I really like the component that you can play 5 games, you can play 6, you can play 7 games, and the fact that they cut 2 games again, I think was very admirable on the Iowa High School Athletic Association. You won't hear too many coaches say that, but I think it was probably the best thing to do at this point. And to play 7 is certainly better than not playing any. And I think that they again held the safety aspect in front of everything. And we as coaches across the state of Iowa also have to make sure that we take care of our kids in practice. That safety is the number one priority. You take their temperature on a daily basis. You have plenty of hand sanitizer. You sterilize the equipment that they're playing with on a daily basis. You just do a lot of things. You do the social distancing, which is harder to do in football, but we're going to try everything that we possibly can. I know we had our open gyms this summer, and we required our players to wear a mask, and we had all of our coaches in masks, and then we took their temperature, we sterilized everything, and we really think that that's something that is going to be a new normal for a while. And I think that's important, and I hope all the high school coaches, and I'm sure that they will across the state, follow those patterns.
Yeah, and one of the nice things that the state announced was that in the event that a game or games, multiple games, need to be canceled or forfeited due to COVID-19 related incidents, such as local or state level health restrictions. Maybe a team breaks out with sick kids or coaches or anything like that. What's nice that the state did is that those forfeited games don't count towards your ability to get into the playoffs. And speaking of the playoffs, every team can get into the playoffs now this season. So, kind of with that in mind, it seems like safety is a big thing. But then also, with everybody being able to get in the playoffs, you mentioned that some teams are going to play 5 games, some play 6, some play 7. Every team is going to have the opportunity to play that full potential 9-game schedule, and then more beyond that. So talk about kind of the playoff aspect here of the fact that it's just a big tournament now. Everybody's in it. There's 6 rounds, and
I think that's was a good situation to put in this year. You can't really help when somebody, gets the virus, obviously, and you don't want that to happen to anybody, but they're not going to penalize any team that gets that. And then say, for example, we're playing Matt Shenander's team on Friday night, and all of a sudden his team gets sick. We can go out and have the option to go out and find another team that may be in the same situation that we are and play them to replace the team that was sick. So I think that's a component as well. I know you're going to hear the people, well, those playoffs, what's the playoffs? And, Matt and Jason, they've been doing that in every sport in the state of Iowa, history of the state of Iowa, gets to play in postseason play, except for football. Football in the past, there's 50% of the teams after the last week 9 game, their seasons are over. So I really don't want to hear that too much. We really would take pride in the fact that we have to work to get in postseason games. This year, we still have to work. We're going to get better every single week out. But, I don't want to hear that really too much, because I think this was a special situation that the Iowa High School decided they wanted to do. And I think it's the right thing to do. And again, I'm looking forward to going back to the normal again next year, where half the teams after the last game are done. And but I think it's a very good move at this point.
As we're talking about this, and I'll sort of paraphrase what it says straight from the Iowa High School Association. Iowa High School Athletic Association website. The pairings will be determined by geography, quality, and team availability as primary considerations. Of course, as you guys just touched upon, if a team is stricken by the virus and have decided to, for safety reasons, said, "Hey, we can't play," it that's understandable. The state will try to make provisions for the other teams, try to make it work out for them. And it said, as Coach Pedersen just pointed out, this is intended to be a one-time measure for postseason formatting, and then it goes right into there will be no RPI this year because every team is going to qualify. So for me, Butch, the one question as we get into that, is now that every team is going to make it, the chance of, we'll say Team A goes 5-0, 6-0, or 7-0, they're going to be paired against, perhaps, for lack of a better way of saying it, from a win-loss perspective, one of the weaker teams that's within reasonable driving distance, if I read that correctly.
That's kind of what I would say, geographic location. They want to do the quality they can. So it's going to be somewhat seeded. But, again, that's something that, and I love basketball. I coached a long time in basketball as a head coach. To me, sometimes in basketball and the other sports as well, that's just the luck of the draw sometimes, in 21-0 basketball team playing an 0-21 basketball team in the first round, which lots of times does happen type of thing. That's part of the whole process. And that's why I'm glad that they did it this year. But I'm also pleased that football is a little special to me anyway, that you have to work your way into it. And I'm still saying that we'll be working our way into it this year because we have a lot of variables that we're going to have to fight through. And I'm glad it's a one-year deal. And I'm glad we're going back to the regular thing next year, hopefully, God willing. And but I think this year it's the right thing to do.
With every team making it in the playoffs, and as we sit here today, unless something bad happens, West Branch is in the playoffs. Does that change anything of how you or your players are going to approach this season?
No, I mean, when I learned a long time ago, and my head coach was Roger Hansen, and he taught us very early in our careers that you play one game at a time. You get better each and every play in practice. You give everything you have, but the philosophy is you play one game at a time. And the way I see it now, we have 7 games on our schedule, and we're going to play each game one game at a time. And we're going to continue to get better, and we're going to be 110% better each and every week, hopefully. And we'll see what happens. But, I don't think so.
So here's a scenario as it pertains to what this is saying, and with the, with the pandemic in mind. Week 3, West Branch and Cascade are scheduled to play. If Cascade says, "Hey, we had 2 kids test for the coronavirus," is there a way that, well, say one kid for a team test positive? Does that mean I'm not reading this in anywhere. Do you think that means that team is going to have to shut it down?
That's the one variable that we don't know yet. They're going to have more announcements to regulations, and I'm sure that particular question will be addressed next week by the Iowa High School Athletic Association. I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's a 14-day quarantine, a 10-day quarantine. I've read both in the paper, but I know the Iowa High School Athletic Association has been very diligent on all their hard work that they've done to have a safe factor for everybody. And we'll have those questions answered next week.
Yeah.
Day, I don't know for sure, but I know we're going to get those answers next week.
Okay. Because with that, I mean, I think it, this, if we saw this summer, you saw what's with baseball and softball, and I want to commend the Iowa High School Athletic Association. I have trouble saying that, for their work just to get those teams to get to play games, and B, for working with teams that were perhaps struggling a week with someone on a team or multiple players on a team with the pandemic. As it turned out, they sent the stats out, and just shy of 95% of the teams played a full schedule this summer. That's pretty impressive when you think everything in advance. And I'd like to think that's going to be a similar number in football. what I would hope that with all the things you talked about, everybody's going to take a temperature. Everybody's going to have to do other things to just be able to go to practice. Is that correct? Okay. With all that stuff in mind, I would like to think the numbers are going to be good. And every team, I know with West Branch, what's going to be the process? Have you discussed that yet with Coach, with Mr. Stenberg, with yourself, with our school medical team? Has that been, say, hey, this is what we have in place every day. We got to do this.
Jake and I have talked quite a bit about it. We're going to have a youth football camp like we always do every year. And we're going to follow those same identical rules with the young ones that we're going to follow with the high school kids when we get that. And basically they've all been mentioned to us already tonight. But, and I talked to Marty as well, very briefly one day. And, one of the keys is we want our kids to be able to participate, not only, this fall in football, but also in volleyball. And we're going to have to make sure that we understand this is a new normal for right now. I think down the road, we're going to get better. We're going to get a vaccine. We're going to find some answers to some of these things that have happened to us. But I think we need to stay positive. We need to move forward. But we need, safety is the factor that we have to really make sure that we're as safe as we can possibly be in. And that's something I like to kind of touch on a little bit, because
Sure,
someone does get the disease or whatever. And football's probably going to get jabbed, or volleyball's going to get jabbed, but we're not quite sure where that even came from.
right.
It could be somebody in a store in Iowa City. It could be somebody in a restaurant somewhere who we don't really know. So I think we have to be open-minded and flexible on where the thing came from. Continually, we have to take care of our kids. We have to teach them, certainly this year, more so than ever, how to be a man first, how to make sure they're in the right positions to stay away from some of these factors. And we've already started doing that in our open gyms that we've had. And the kids have responded very well.
Good. And I think Matt knows me well enough to know I was trying to say exactly that just before you said this, before you brought it out as, if West Branch has what? We have how many kids are out for football this year, Coach?
Well, probably close to 50.
We'll say 50 kids. If one kid gets the coronavirus, that doesn't mean they got it at football practice. That doesn't mean they got it at a captain's practice. That doesn't mean they got it in the weight room with the football team or the volleyball team or at volleyball practice. Again, as you said, it could happen in their car with their family. You just never know. So I like the way you worded that as don't blame. I hope we don't just blame the sport, because it's not just the sport's fault. As we've learned, there have been some schools in the area that things have happened to them that it didn't come from a baseball team or a softball team. It came from outside that, but for safety reasons, and you guys have talked about it, I'm sure. Even if it's outside, you're going to play the safe route and do whatever we can for the safety of the kids.
Absolutely. And that's some things that we're still in the process of working with. I'm going to be talking to Jake next week. He's getting married in very early August, and he'll be gone. And we've been spending a lot of time together discussing these things. But face shields are something we're trying to look into.
Yeah.
Right? I know Des Moines Dowling has a face mask that I've looked at a little bit the last couple of days. And there's a couple other companies out there that have face masks. I'm going to check the feasibility of that. But one of the problems with a small school, and I think we all will know that, whether it's education, co-curricular activities, is money. And sometimes where you have to make sure that if we can find a face mask, shield of some sort, that we're going to find some money to pay for those things for the kids if they're a feasible thing to use. And that's still in the works. It's still a process that we're trying to work through. But I know I got, a couple comments from coaches in the western part of the state that they do have masks that they're putting on, and Des Moines Dowling is one of them that I've looked at online.
Coach, with a lot of those preventative and safety measures and things that you've been talking about and thinking about doing, how much have you and the school district potentially have already learned from the baseball and softball seasons, and then how much is still left to be learned, and how are those things that you're going to be learning going to apply to the football season this fall? Talk about wearing masks, potential some type of mask to wear on the football helmet. Are fans going to be allowed at the games? What is a press box situation going to look like? Kind of all of those things that how is a normal football season might not seem so normal.
Well, again, I'm not trying to pass the buck here, but I know
Sure.
a lot That's going to be discussed next week. Given we're going to have parameters and some protocol to follow, I would certainly think that the social distancing in softball and baseball, to be honest with you, I've been to some of those games. In some games, I thought they did a really good job. In some games, I thought people were sitting elbow to elbow in lawn chairs. And I think those are things that have to improve. West Branch is lucky from the standpoint that we have the little Rose Bowl. We have cars that they can sit in front of their vehicle. I know that the school has talked about if you're sitting in the main set of bleachers, they may have to require you to wear a face mask. That's not for sure. That's just talk that we're trying to, again, find safety measures that we could use. And the press box, I think, will have less people in it than it has in the past. And we'll just have to wait and see on some of the other things. But we are on top of things. Do we have all the answers? Heavens, no. There's not anybody in the world that has all the answers for this. But the process is that you need to continue to look for answers. Sit back and be satisfied. If you don't like something, open your mouth and tell somebody what you don't like. Offer suggestions, and we can all improve together and learn together and become, more, positive for our kids.
I think one thing's for sure is that our school district will do it correctly.
Marty and all of the administrators and our athletic director are going to do everything feasible to make everybody safe, no matter what sport it is, no matter what co-curricular activity it is. If you're in the wintertime, we're in show choir. There's going to have to be things looked at to see what we can do to help those situations out. And to me, it's kind of a challenge. It's a challenge that I don't really have to like to do, but it's a challenge that I feel really responsible for. And I think we can all learn from one another. But the key is flexibility. You can't sit there and be a naysayer and say, no. You got to sit back and say, what can we do to help our kids be safe? What can we do to have our kids have a good, positive experience? That's what you do in a situation like this. You stay positive. You don't look for the negative. You stay for the positive, and you find, good solutions.
One thing you've always said, and you said it from when Larry Rummels-Lurch was helping you out, one thing you've always said, Butch, is this program has never been about you. It's never been about Lurch. It's never been about anybody that coach. It's about the community, and the community's going to the school's going to find ways to keep the community involved so that the kids can have a good product on Friday night. From a crowd aspect, from whatever we can do to make it a normal Friday night as it states in 2020. But from what we hear from you, from Matt and I are hearing from you, Coach, is that the number one priority you have is the safety of the kids. And with that safety is they're going to get to play football and have a normal, for the senior class of 2021, a somewhat normal high school experience on a fall Friday night.
Well, that's certainly going to be the goal of everybody. And, I do think one thing I can mention is we go to our open gym type practices. We have our coaches up there with, we make them wear masks. And of course they don't make them. They want to wear the mask. They want to make they're protected, and they want to make sure that the players are protected. But I kind of like it with their masks on because some of them are so ugly I can't see their face. So players mentioned that to me. That guy's kind of a lot better looking with a mask on his face. Yeah, you're right. And so some smiles, and you can have some fun with this situation too. But overall, again, safety is such an important thing. And be positive. West Branch has always been positive no matter what activity we're in. And we need to continue to keep that positive because something, we need each other. It's been a long last 4 months. Some more months to go. So what do? Let's stay positive. Let's have each other's back. Let's be a family, not only in the football sense, let's be a family in the sense of the community, of the school district. Let's all fight together to make everything better for our kids and for ourselves.
Coach, on a lighter note, coming up this next weekend as we record this is our annual trivia night. Are you and your team still playing?
That's one thing, I didn't sign up my team to play, trivia and then cancel it out, to be honest with you. I wanted to give money to the program. I wanted to do things for other people. And that's still my process. And I know some people had to drop out for some reason this year. And that's certainly, I respect whatever the decisions are going to be. But please, if you want to help the football program, if you want to help the kids of our school district, if you want to help, the all around environment that we have in our community, sign up, have some fun. It's going to be a different night. Maybe you'll touch on that a little bit and tell us a little bit about what that's going to be about. But it's going to be a fun night. It is what you make it, right? It is what make. You can sit around and complain, or you can get up on your fanny and make a fun night for everybody involved.
Yeah, typically these trivia events, they're in person, they're downtown West Branch. Everybody kind of gets together with your friends, and food and drinks and fun questions and just really a good time. And now it's going to be online, doing it all digital, over Zoom and everything like that from the comfort of your own home or wherever you want to do it. But I still think it's going to be a lot of fun. Like as you said, Coach, it's all about what you can make out of it, and I think it can still be a lot of fun. So I'm hoping that those who are registered to participate have the fun, and if you're not registered, you can get registered online actually, and get registered for the event next Friday night on July 31st. It should be pretty fun.
I know that we've heard a variety of different teams are going to meet on a driveway somewhere. Again, observe social distancing, but be together and get a little projector of some sort and put some of the stuff on the garage front door, and they're going to have a good time. So there's an example of, having a negative thing happen, really. We can't be together where we're going to be together this year, but we found another way to still be positive and have a fun time. And that's to me, that's life anymore. You got to step up when bad things happen and make good things happen out of that.
Well, we are about a week out from camp starting, about 2 weeks out from the season. Real quick here, from what you've seen, you talked about open fields, and I know the team has participated in some 7-on-7 this summer. Up to date so far. What are some of the things that you have seen that you liked, and from that it just brings it back to a sense of normalcy?
Well, one of the things we were most impressed with was the attendance. We had over 40 kids at some of these. The learning process is still right there. We're learning, we're getting better. We have great team speed. This team is extremely fast. We have some kids that are young that are going to have to step up and play as sophomores. We have a couple freshmen that not even step up and play. But I've never really been too concerned about what grade you're in. I'm kind of more concerned about what's inside your belly and what's inside your heart. And those kids will step up and they'll play well. And we'll have a very, very competitive football team. Are we champions? Who knows? What is a champion? To me, a champion is somebody who gives the best effort they possibly can, win or lose, and they don't worry about the scoreboard, but they give it all for each other on the field. That's what a champion is anyway. But we're really pleased with what we've seen out there in regards to the work ethic that we've seen in the open gyms. At our 7-on-7, we played against Clear Creek. We played against Cedar Rapids, Jefferson. We've played, last week we played some additional teams on top of that. We're going to play City High and Muscatine tomorrow, but they had some situations where they weren't allowed to use their helmets. So we couldn't do that. We revived our rivalry with Solon. We played Solon last week and had a great time with those guys. And I think it's great when we do those kinds of things to play the big schools, to play the 3A and to play the 4A, because you're never going to get any better if you're playing somebody that maybe not quite as good as you are. So we always try to play 3A and a 4A school if we can. And we think that's helped us a lot this year. And we've seen some kids improve a bunch throughout the course of this summer. And it's only started on July 1st. We couldn't do anything until July 1st. And now they've come on, and we're going to have our last open gym this coming Wednesday. And then we're going to give the kids, 3 or 4 days off, probably 4 or 5 days off. And then our equipment handout's going to be on August 3rd. And our first practice is on August 4th. And then we'll start getting to work, and we're going to start getting better.
Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule this evening to join us and talking about football. And it's good to be able to talk about that. And as of right now, an official capacity, a safe capacity, and for 2020, the senior class of 2021, having a season for those kids that have worked hard for 3 years, now hopefully 4 years, and all the staff along with that to make it a great season.
Yes, and I also, I want to congratulate the softball team on a great summer and the baseball team on a great summer. I feel bad that some of the other sports in the spring didn't get to participate, obviously, and hopefully that'll be taken care of. Next spring things will get better, and they're going to get out there and get to show their stuff, and that's what West Branch is all about. Competing and being as good as you can possibly be, not only as an athlete but more so even as a person. And we still have a lot of that coming ahead of us to look forward to.
We appreciate you coming along, Butch, and we'll look forward to talking to you throughout the season.
Yeah, maybe next week when we get some of the regulations from the state, we can do this again and kind of update the citizens of West Branch on exactly what the state is going to require us to do in specifics.
Exactly. I look forward to that because I know this year with the difference in things, I think what we're going, I'm not trying to, it's not tooting our horn for Matt and I and Steven, what we do with the podcast and things. But I think perhaps this year more than anything, this website that you allowed us and a lot of people have been involved with for years, I think is going to be a very big wealth of information and just the point of the go-to point if we don't know what the attendance allowances are going to be this year. So if those things are cut down a little bit, I think westbranchfootball.com is going to be a pretty big deal. So
and again, I've talked to college coaches a lot. I have a lot of connections as far as across the state with a variety of different sports coaches, and they just think your guys' website is the best, and it is. I mean, I've had college coaches at Iowa even say, boy, you guys really got something going over there. Yeah, we do. But it's to your guys' credit. You work hard, you spend a lot of time, you don't get paid anything, but you do it as a labor of love for our athletes and for the coaches. And I just think that's great. And we're excited to get started, I tell you that. And I'm glad that you had us on tonight. And I really would like to do it again next week to tell everybody exactly what's going to happen from the state office.
Well, you heard it right here. It's going to happen. And I think we got to make it happen now. It's locked in.
Yep.
Well, Matt, you heard a lot of different things from Butch. Most importantly, and for everyone in this whole scenario with a pandemic, it's taken a toll on so many different ways. It's changed the way we are living right now in 2020. The key thing to remember, and the key thing Coach Pedersen brought up, that the team is going to focus on besides the football, more so than the football, is safety.
Yeah, and that's really all we can do. Be safe. And the safer we are, the quicker we're going to get through this and hopefully back to a semblance of normalcy.
I think that's what we're all striving for and what we're all looking forward to.
Yeah. Jason, we did talk about this with Coach Pedersen, but I did want to bring it up again. If you're looking for something to do, next Friday night, July 31st, the West Branch football annual trivia event is going on online. So we was originally going to be happen back in April. Obviously got postponed and delayed a few times, and now we've settled on a date for July 31st, and it's going to be online, so you can enjoy it from the comfort of your own home or wherever and with whomever you choose to participate in the trivia event with. I think the captain's parents, a huge shout out to them. They have done an incredible job this basically entire year so far with how much we're trying to get this scheduled. They have done an incredible job just responding to all of the uncertainty and the changes and the regulations and rules and everything that's going on. So hat tip to them. And I think shaping up to be a pretty fun evening, even though it's not going to be like a normal trivia night. I think we're going to still have a lot of fun. So if you already registered, you're all set. If you haven't registered yet, there's still time to do that. You can do that, I think, until Wednesday of this week, so the 29th. You can do that online at Get Me Registered. So just go to westbranchfootball.com. There'll be a post right there on the homepage about Trivia Night, and you can get you and or your team signed up to participate. Just exclusive for our Talking Bear Football podcast listeners, I will give a hint.
And what's that hint?
That hint is study your TV game show theme songs.
Oh gosh, love it.
Mm-hmm.
And the newbies, the younger folks, they aren't going to know much of it, so they better study because they don't even really do game shows anymore. To be quite honest with you, there aren't very many. The 70s and 80s had some fantastic game show theme songs. Mm-hmm. So there's a big hint there. I guarantee you, Matt Shenander is going to put something from the 70s or the 80s on there. And
there's some 90s
and some 90s
2000s
and some 2000s.
We're inclusive of all decades.
Yeah, it's going to be a good night. You heard in the interview with Coach Pedersen, we're going to do this all again next week. 1 week from today or whatever we do it, whenever we get some more information from the Iowa High School Athletics Association, when they firm up the plans and we get a more clear as mud idea of what football or what fall sports are going to look like, we're going to invite Coach Pedersen back on. Actually, he invited himself back on, and we're okay with that because this is the Talking Bear Football podcast. And Talking Bear Football, it means talking with the Bear football coach, and that's Butch Pedersen. So we're going to bring him back on because we want to have a football season. The kids want to have a football season. You want to have a football season. I want to have a football season, and you, the listener, want to have a football season. And we're going to bring whatever we have for West Branch football to you here. After the games, we're going to talk about them, and we're going to talk about it on the Talking Bear Football podcast.
Right here at westbranchfootball.com. Until
next time, we want to wish you all the best. Stay safe out there. Wear your mask when you can. It's not about you. It's about the people. It's not about you. It's about the people around you. And man, I'm looking forward, Matt, to some football within almost 1 month from right now is the first game. That's pretty crazy to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You all have a good time out there. You all wear your stuff. Stay safe. And we ask you to take care, everyone.